Finally, a source of raw, real, and honest information on healthcare issues that matter most. Welcome to BS Free MD. From the latest medical information to how to stay sane as a doctor or a patient, no subject is taboo and no BS is allowed. Now, let's welcome your hosts, Doctors May and Tim Hindmarsh.
Welcome to our first Doctales with Cocktails, where we discuss the weird and wacky things that happen in medicine. Today's episode is going to be Covidiots, in other words, really stupid shit that people have done in the name of a pandemic. So, May, to start us off, what's our first category?
Well, we're counting down the award winners, and looks like in spot number 4, you've got your moronic masker group that we're selecting from. Is there a highlight from the moronic maskers that comes to mind for you?
Well, I think clearly it's the young woman using her mask to pick up dog poop and then putting the mask back on. Of course, she turned it inside out.
Ah, you're referring to the now viral video that, did we see it on Instagram or I can't remember where, that was a famed ex-star of some type.
You mean the ex-porn star that...
There you go. Okay.
And then she came out, and of course her excuse was, at least I'm not an anti-masker. I'm getting anti-masker and anti-vaxxer. There's such a wide category. I'm getting them mixed up.
All right. So, yes. So she was filmed. It looked like someone was catching her in the stealth. They were in their car, and she's walking her dog, cute little Bichon-like thing, and she's got her mask on. Dog stops to do his duty. She looks around because, heaven forbid she'd leave it there. So she decides to do the cool thing, pick it up. What does she do? She takes off her mask to scoop the poop and puts her mask back on. And clearly, it looks like she scooped with the outside. I don't know. I think it was a setup. I don't think it was spontaneous. I think it was all made up.
Yeah, I think that one, I think we got to, since it is BS Free MD, I think we have to call complete BS on it. Super funny. It was great until you figured out who it was. And it,
Yeah, and then there was...
When you're a publicity whore, or just a whore, things happen, right?
And then, I was looking that one up, and then apparently Katy Perry said the same thing, that what better thing than to have your own, have your mask to scoop poop with double duty, whatever. So it's funny, but it's dumb.
But what about actual people we've seen in actual real life being moronic maskers?
Oh, yeah, we've got a bunch.
My personal favorite, we were in an airport in the Pacific Northwest, and we saw a gentleman who had a mask, a face shield, and gloves on.
Oh, yeah.
And he was trying... He was trying to...
Where's that picture?
He was trying to drink coffee and eat a muffin or something, and he would have to just barely move the mask down and then take a sip. And then, of course, he had the gloves on, which I'll get into in a second. Why I think
he looked like he was conducting some kind of medical or scientific experiment.
Well, yeah, if it's that dangerous, to be in public, then the answer is not to wear a bunch of stupid crap. It's to not be in public.
Yeah, I've totally forgot about that. That was very moronic. It was.
Well, the glove thing is just completely insane, because you see people that are wearing gloves, and you're literally their gloves are so soiled. They've worn them the entire day. So you're driving down the street, and some guy's got a mask and gloves on, and he's got these gloves on, and they're just filthy, right? I mean, it's just like you think of this, right? Like put it into our terms. It's like a surgeon goes in and he just does a bowel resection. So he's literally reattaching somebody's poop chute together. And he comes out and he doesn't take his gloves off, because why would you do that? And he shakes hands with the spouse
He
of
picks
the
up a
person.
sandwich.
And he picks up a sandwich and he's high-fiving his OR crew and the anesthesiologist and the scrub nurse and all the rest of this. No, gloves are like, you know what gloves are? They're 5-finger hand condoms. They are single use only.
Exactly.
No extra use. But people will wear them all day and think they're safe. That's why it's called wash your hands.
Right.
Because you get, dog doo-doo on your hands. You want to wash your hands like right away. You don't want to leave the dog doo-doo gloves on.
I guess they feel okay about protecting themselves, but don't care where else their gloves are going. But anyway.
Well, and that's, again, the whole masking thing that people forgot, the whole concept of wearing a mask. We're not going to get into the science because it's hard to prove anything mask-wise. But the bottom line with all this stuff is you're wearing a mask to protect other people because you may be an asymptomatic spreader.
Right.
When you're wearing gloves, you just become, gross.
Well, talking about gross hands and mask faux pas, on my list is something I experienced at the local grocery store, which was a lady wearing her mask, picking up some produce, decides to pick up the plastic bag to put the produce in. I don't know, broccoli or whatever. Of course, you know how annoying the sticky plastic is when it sticks together and you can't get your stuff in. So, of course, I'm watching intently and closely. And what does she do? She pulls her mask slowly down, sticks her finger in her mouth to make it moist so that she can open up the bag.
Moist.
And then slips the mask back up and does her thing. So she didn't have gloves on. She just stuck her dirty finger in her mouth, which was disgusting.
I guess she didn't read the study where when they do viral cultures on COVID, the highest concentration of live virus is in saliva.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking where her dirty hands had been and touched everything. Yuck. So, yeah, I like to call that finger licking disgusting.
No, finger licking bad. That's called finger licking bad. My personal the other ones I know that you can't stand is the face shield, not the actual mask.
Yeah, I have a problem with that just because to me it's just like a mechanism to send all the splatter and saliva straight down. And these people sometimes have them like angled like they're a welder. They're not completely covering. And, they're meant to protect your eyes from stuff, your face from droplets. They're not meant to cover your mouth and stop.
Well, I went into a Subway. Please don't judge. And I'm ordering a sandwich. I won't tell you which one. And this was at a point where they did not have to have an actual face mask. I don't know if they still do, but the law was some sort of shield. So the guy had the like the happy clear mask on, and I'm watching him make the sandwich, and I said, "Well, what this thing is essentially it's a COVID deflection device to just take the COVIDs and direct them straight onto the processed meat."
It's just a straight shoot down.
Like literally, it's just like it's like let's make a
what if
Niagara Falls of COVID.
Someone's a super salivator and the droplets are just dripping down the inside, or if it's a humid day, especially here in the Pacific Northwest where the humidity is high and people's saliva is just condensating on the inside. I mean, it's disgusting.
Like
to
you
me,
go
but,
in, you
but
go
it's
in there.
legal. It's one of the recommended covers, along with gaiters and the standard mask. Face shields are approved.
And you go in and you get Sylvester. Suffering succotash. I mean, this guy is like an absolute saliva
That's what I'm
fountain.
talking about. I think it's just so gross how people can get away with just wearing a face shield and nothing over their mouth.
But the mask vents are those are ripe. I love that.
So the mask vents, let's talk about those quickly. I mean, we have people that come in, patients that come in with those things on. I don't know how they're allowed in, because those things are great if you're painting your deck and you want to protect yourself, or you're out there sandblasting your furniture and you want to keep all the sawdust out of your face, but you want your moisture and saliva to be exhaled, but that's what you're doing is you're shooting your droplets through the vents.
Turbocharged COVID transmission.
So you're safe, but nobody else is.
Exactly, because you know what? It's America. Who gives a shit about anybody else?
Put a zipper on those things. Anyway, so
and last but not least, I was out for a walk. I we have scheduled patients, and I actually get a lunch break from time to time, most times, which is great. We've had some nice fall days. I'm out for a nice walk. I'm trying to get 2 miles in at lunchtime, listening to a podcast, having an excellent time. I look, and there's a guy on a Vespa. Okay, first of all, it's a guy on a Vespa. And you know what they say about men on scooters? Men on scooters are men that want to ride motorcycles but like to feel the wind through their vagina. Anyway, so he's on.
There's actually now that's a thing. There's a place for that. So the world we live in.
Right. Yeah, I understand that. There is
not the world you live in, but
not the world I live in, but
that's
fine. Whatever. So at any rate, he's happily riding his Vespa, and he has his face covering on, which is great, and he has his helmet on because you never can be too safe, and it's unbuckled.
Ooh.
So you're by yourself. You're going, 30 miles an hour. You're out in the middle of nowhere, so you have zero exposure to anybody, and you're going to wear a helmet, but it's going to be completely worthless to you when you come off.
Clearly, he thinks the death risk from COVID is much higher than the head injury factor while riding a Vespa.
Right, but that's it. Yeah. Well, then, there's just the risk of riding a Vespa and getting the shit kicked out of you by a bunch of other bikers.
I just want to know if he had any other protective equipment on, like any leathers or.
Well, he's probably
boots.
wearing a condom as well. Just because you never know what's going to happen, right? You never know when opportunity.
Nasty.
You never know when opportunity may strike. So you must be prepared.
Well, I don't know. That one probably wins in that category. Vespa man.
Potentially. The one thing that I think is to be slightly serious, we're going to try to not be very serious. But I remember Fauci back at the beginning of this, back in April or May, saying, I don't think everyone should be going around wearing masks because it's going to give you a false sense of security. False sense of security, I'm telling you. And I think he's kind of correct. I mean, we've seen numerous patients, and it's really sad. We have a lot of people that we've seen that are really, really scared, and actually with very good reason. The numbers in our state are climbing significantly. We see people with, a tremendous number of comorbid conditions, elderly people, and they're nervous, and, they should be nervous. And then they come in, they test positive. They're, not necessarily, we work in the outpatient world, so they're not super sick. And they're like, how did I get this? How did I get this? I don't go anywhere, and I always wear my mask. And I said, well, where did you go? Well, I had to go to the grocery store, and then I had to go to the hardware store, and then I had to go. And it's like this sense that somehow if you put a mask on, it's like a force field. Well, it's not. The mask is there. If it does anything, it protects other people from you. Unless you're wearing an N95 mask, which is really difficult to wear hours at a time. I hate wearing the things even 15 minutes at a time, but we do it for work because we
people
have to.
Forgotten what
and if you look at evidence, it's all over the map. You're never going to get really good data. I'm not going to get into some anti-masking rant, but the reality is that it's unless you're wearing an N95, it's probably not protecting you very much.
Right.
And the thing is that people go, well, masks don't do anything. There's no good science, which you can make that argument. Therefore, don't wear a mask and do whatever you want. Well, that's kind of like saying, parachute, you go to the drop zone and you're going to rent a parachute. And they said, we had a field trip and all the kids from the local blind school came and packed all the parachutes. So these parachutes we don't really think are going to work. Well, what's your solution? Your solution isn't to go, parachutes don't work, I'm going to put on a backpack and jump out of a plane. No, the solution is to leave.
Right.
And that's the thing. If masks don't work, which they do something, but probably not what most people think, the solution is actually to be more careful, not less careful.
Exactly. You can't go all extreme, but it's like I said, people will do anything. It's the crazy world we live in, and that's what happens.
Okay, so we need to take a little tiny break because it is Doctales with Cocktails. and explain what we're drinking. We are not sponsored by these people. We would love to be, because we are kind of devotees to their spirits, and it is 44 North. They make wonderful potato-based vodkas of different flavors out of Idaho. We're drinking their Idaho potato vodka today, and I have mixed it into a gimlet, and I must say, it's pretty much perfect. It's getting a little bit diluted, but it is almost perfect. And a gimlet is a traditional gimlet is actually gin. So it's either gin or you can make a vodka gimlet, which we did, which is vodka, lime, and I squash. Oh man, have another drink.
Squash?
I squash. I squash the limes. I squeeze a fresh.
Created a new word.
Squash. That's it, man.
Squashed it.
Hey, we're publishing it. We own it. It's copyright. That's amazing.
Squash that lime.
We squash that lime into the shaker. A little bit of simple syrup to sweeten it up just a bit, take the edge off of it, and then vodka. It's essentially why I like martinis and why I like Manhattans. It's an excuse to have a gigantic shot.
It's nice and refreshing if you like lime. This would be a good summer drink.
Right, and since it's not summer, it's still a good drink. But
we're pretending it is.
We're pretending. I put a bunch of clothes on. I'm having a personal summer.
So this is the 44 North plain. Is that correct?
44 North potato vodka, which is just the base spirit.
Okay.
They have Mountain Huckleberry, I believe it is, and then of course
my personal favorite,
which is nectarine. So they are amazing. Let's move on. Okay, so coming in at number 3 is the entire government of British Columbia, and I could throw in a whole bunch of stuff about just Canada in general. And technically, according to the Canadians, even though I've been a naturalized American since 2003, somehow they still think I'm a Canadian. I went across the border one day. They asked me where I was born. I said Saskatoon. They said, you're Canadian. And I said, whatever lets me visit my mom.
Sure,
okay.
You still are.
I'm whatever you want me to be.
I couldn't help but share this on my own personal blog on Instagram on The Doctor Next Door, if you're following me. Let's see her. Dr. Theresa Tam, who's the Chief Public Health Officer of Canada, came out and spoke at a news conference on the COVID-19 pandemic on Parliament Hill in Ottawa in July. And she basically said to stop kissing, consider wearing a mask, and went on to state that, like other activities, and this is a quote, during COVID-19 that involve physical closeness, there are some things you can do to minimize the risk of getting infected and spreading the virus, she said. She said, skip kissing, avoid face-to-face closeness, wear a mask that covers your mouth and nose, and monitor yourself and your partners for symptoms ahead of any sexual activity. And then she went on to quote the Canadian, was it the Canadian recommendations or the CDC? Or it was the BC, British Columbia. You have it.
It's the British Columbia CDC.
The British Columbia CDC. There you go.
Steps to protect yourself during sex. This is not from a news media. This is directly from the Centers of Disease Control for the province of British Columbia. Ask your partners if they're feeling unwell or have symptoms of COVID-19. And I'm sure that stranger on Tinder is going to fess up to that. Consider keeping contact information for your partners so that you can reach them if one of them or you develop symptoms. Okay, what has anyone just kind of pumped the brakes on this and go, you're having sex with a stranger. Maybe there's other risks that are bigger than if you're like a 25-year-old on Tinder that has virtually zero risk of mortality from COVID, like getting tied up and put in a trunk.
Wait, does it say Tinder, though? It doesn't say Tinder.
No.
This could be anybody.
Well, it could be anybody. But you know what? If it's a marital partner that you've lived with for like 28 years like us, I don't need to ask you if you're feeling a little
maybe
sick.
you do. How you feeling tonight? How are you feeling tonight takes on a whole new meaning. Are you feeling COVID-y or not COVID-y?
Well, I'm always feeling not COVID-y, but that's a different story. Wash before and after sex. Wash
Now,
your body with soap and water. Wash your hands with soap
I'm
and
only
water for at least
about
20
to
seconds.
start laughing because it totally reminds me of an episode from is it Christmas Vacation with Todd and Margot? Or am I thinking of another movie?
No, that's Todd and Margot is Christmas Vacation.
Yeah. Didn't she make him take a shower first?
Yeah, because they went out running, and it's like, what did you say? I want to drink you or whatever. Not yet, Todd.
Take a shower, Todd. I just think of them every time I take a shower before and after.
Wash sex toys
But maybe
thoroughly.
it could be during.
Wash. This is
all about COVID, supposedly,
This is
and this
the
sounds like a
government.
manual on how to have a happy romance.
This is the government.
Okay, keep going. What else does it say?
Wash sex toys thoroughly.
Well, that's just plain hygiene.
Per the manufacturer's instructions. Most, but not all, can be cleaned
They
with
have
mild, unscented soap and water. Do not share them with multiple partners.
This is just absurd. Like, you actually have to put that into writing.
Well, that's like don't trim your hedges with the lawnmower. Or do not use lawnmower as a hair cutting device. Wear a mask. Wear a face covering or mask. Because, nothing says romance than picking someone up.
Your head in a bag.
But if she was ugly and had a super awesome body, I mean, honestly, it might be an advantage. Wear a face covering or mask. Here we go. Heavy breathing during sex can create more droplets that may transmit COVID-19. Not that all those other bodily fluids that you're like spraying around the room can't transmit God knows what else, but the heavy breathing, that's a problem. Avoid or limit kissing and saliva exchange.
Well, let's see. If you have Sjogren's, then you're in luck. That's all I can say.
Wow. That's a... Choose sexual positions that limit face-to-face contact.
Okay. This is getting a little raunchy.
I'm actually not going to even comment on some of this.
Let's just keep going.
But here it goes. This is it. This is the coup de grace, they say. Use barriers.
Mm-hmm. Like condoms?
Like walls.
Like walls.
Example, glory holes that allow for sexual contact but prevent close face-to-face contact. Because, nothing says romance like the sensual congress of two young lovers or some guy just putting his dick through a hole.
But I want to know, is that shiplapped or not shiplapped?
Well, no, that would be Magnolia glory hole.
Oh,
where you have, Magnolia glory hole.
For real.
It's shiplap
they
with a hole.
Actually put that in writing.
No, it's in writing.
Yeah.
This is from, I printed this.
You could look it up.
From the
But
interweb.
let me warn you, when you go to look this up, be very careful about typing in glory hole into your search engine. Don't do it at work on your work computer. I did not do that, but I might have used my own cell phone or iPad device to share this hilarious information with some coworkers, and it does bring up some very disturbing pictures unless you type in British Columbia CDC glory hole recommendations or chief health officer. So warning, do not just Google glory holes. I'm telling you, for your protection for the rest of your life.
Agreed.
Yeah, that category, I don't know. That whole category is like a winner right there. I mean, it's just insane.
Well, I guess to bring it back to actual science.
And all of our friends and family just like put their heads down in shame when you bring it up.
They're like, "No, we know why you left Canada because hey, it's a glory hole, eh? Like, have a couple of bats, get a little bit frisky and shove your dick through a wall.
Make sure it's not actually winter and it's not metal, because
Can you
parts
imagine?
stick.
You could. Like if you did that and you didn't understand that the glory hole was an exterior wall and it was 40 below and you were in the middle of like, Saskatoon and then I went to the ERA and it's like, My skin got stuck on the. Well, I don't want to tell you the rest of the story. I wasn't circumcised before, but
But
I got
you
it for
are
free.
now.
It was like a 40 below circumcision.
A glory hole
Holy.
circumcision. I
Yeah.
love it. That's a good one. I'll have to remember that.
Okay, so moving right along to number 3.
Number 3 on the Covidiots Awards.
So there was, I can't remember if it was a New York State senator or a New York State representative who, he actually introduced this for consistency's sake and to his credit during Ebola. It wasn't just a COVID thing. That basically people with a communicable disease should be able to be detained. And so it's very wordy, but it kind of goes, upon determining by clear and convincing evidence that the health of others is or may be endangered by a case, contact, or carrier, or suspected case, contact, or carrier of a contagious disease, blah, 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 blah. And then it goes to the bottom of kind of how the law was written, identifying such persons either by name or by a reasonably specific description of the individuals or group being detained. In other words, let's build the camps. And then the governor or a state commissioner, not necessarily an adjudicated board of physicians or judges, can just throw you into a camp that can detain you.
Ah.
Okay, so
detain or detention.
Detain, right? And it's not like we've ever thrown anybody that are legal American citizens in camps before. Thank you, FDR, Japanese, etc. during World War II. It's not like this has ever happened before. And so, my thing is this, if you don't want the super wacko people that talk about how, masks are tyranny and all the rest of this to kind of have a really good argument for the fact that masks are tyranny, then, and there was this huge thing about 10 years ago about, there was these secret FEMA camps. The government's building all these FEMA detention camps, and something's going to happen, and they're going to throw everyone in the camps. Well, the best way to not feed that paranoia, which is unhelpful and unconstructive and makes people trust, authorities less, is to not build a freaking FEMA camp. So maybe that shouldn't be a law.
That's frightening.
Yeah, like that's actually kind of terrifying. I mean, and the guy had the balls to actually suggest it twice.
Wow.
Like for 2 different pandemics. Even though the Ebola pandemic in the United States was like 4 people.
Man.
And it lasted. Remember how great that was going to work? And we work in this little dinky town where there's people that have not left the county that they're born in. Okay. And that's not a judgment on who they are. That's just who they are. And every single person got asked, have you ever been to sub-Saharan Africa? And they're like, what's a sub-Saharan Africa?
And then we had the poor guy walk in at 8. No, we closed at 8. It was 7:45 p.m. for his school physical, and he had just come from sub-Saharan Africa on his spring break mission trip with his church, and he happened to unknowingly have a fever, and all chaos ensued. Anyway, that's for another time, but that detention issue, that didn't get very much press or story, but it's really frightening that it's out there.
Are you ready for the winner of the Covidiot Awards?
Well, wait. What number are we on now?
Well, do you have any more?
No, we're on number 1.
We're getting to number 1 right now.
No, I guess we're there.
So, this is delightful and makes me a little bit sad and a little bit holy moly. Federal law enforcement officials issued an 8-count indictment against a doctor they say illegally imported and sold hydroxychloroquine as a curative for COVID-19. Jennings Ryan Staley, MD, who ran the Carmel Valley, California-based Skinny Beach Med Spa, was charged in April, in part on allegations of selling $4,000 COVID-19 treatment packs. For that sum, he offered a telemedicine evaluation, followed by a prescription for the medications in the kit, which included, are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
20 tablets of hydroxychloroquine, a Z-Pack, in other words, azithromycin, antibiotic, 30 alprazolam pills, Xanax,
Ooh.
because, of course, you're anxious to beat shit because you might have
Yes.
COVID, and, of course, 30 Viagra pills. Purchasers also received 24/7 access to Staley and his team because you need 30 Xanax and 30 Viagra as well, because you might take a trip to British Columbia and need to use the freaking glory hole. Yeah, okay.
Well, I guess if you think you're going to go out, you're going to die from COVID, you want to go relaxed and happy. And having a good time.
Yeah, I guess. Nothing says...
No zinc, no elderberry, no fish tablets, fish cleaning.
Oh, we forgot that
yeah,
one.
We'll
go back
he
to
can
that.
get an honorary award. Keep
they'll
going.
get an honorary. So, okay.
Really?
It gets better.
Is there more?
It gets better.
Mm-hmm.
An FBI undercover agent responded to the email saying he wanted to buy 6 of the COVID-19 kits for his family. Staley called the prospective customer and, according to the indictment, described hydroxychloroquine as a miracle cure. When asked by the agent if either that medication or methylquinine, which was part of the kit, could cure COVID-19, Staley responded 100%, and added that both medications could give him immunity for at least 6 months.
And an erection for about as long if he had all that
Right.
Viagra. And how many family members required the Viagra? I guess they were all males, all the family members.
Yeah, that one, I'm just trying to get it. It just reminds me of the greatest Facebook post I've ever seen in the history of my entire life, which was a friend of mine posted, and let's say his wife is named Sally.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, if I took Viagra and I had an election, what's on my mind? And I had an erection for 4 hours, I would not be going to the hospital. Sally would be. And I'm like, you win. That's it. The internet is closed now. You win, Facebook. Thank you.
Poor Sally.
Poor Sally. But anyways, yeah, that's kind of like, essentially taking the Hippocratic Oath and wiping your ass with it and getting a couple paper cuts because you're going to jail for a really long time.
It's disgusting, but it's not surprising. There's kind of all that quackery out there everywhere. That's not, I'm thinking of someone else I know, friend sent me a link to somebody out of India selling some other concoction similar without the benzos and Viagra, but they had the vitamins, the Z-Pack, of course, hydroxychloroquine, elderberry, all kinds of herbs and spices and vitamins. And I can't remember what they're selling it for either, but I'm like, good grief, if there's a crisis, someone's going to look for a way to...
That's better, isn't it? That's a way better shaker sound.
You're giving it 21 shakes now.
We need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a little known fact. Martinis are shaken 21 times, not 22 times and not 20 times. And the reason is 21 times gets it to maximum coldness without breaking up the ice and diluting the cocktail.
But we're having a gimlet.
Well, it is still in the martini family.
So 20.
It's like a bighorn sheep.
Oh.
Is still a sheep, even though it's not the sheep that are in the fields around us that we make into lamb chops.
I see. Okay. Then you're allowed to shake it 21 times.
Right, but if you shake it 23, you'll go blind, but that's at least what my mom used to tell me.
Oh, my goodness. And I hope she never listens to this episode. So, are you going to give a runner-up award?
Unlikely.
Are you going to give a runner-up award to the Fish Tablet Man?
Yeah, Fish Tablet Man, which was, very popularized and somehow became very political because, Trump told people to take hydroxychloroquine and somebody found some sort of chloroquine, something in fish cleaner and then fed it to their husband and and he was an idiot and he took it and died. Well, I
think she was trying to off him.
That story is actually quite interesting because apparently she had a charge for trying to kill the guy before.
Ooh.
And he was an engineer. And, judging from the fact that we have an aspiring engineer in our family, I think they would have a little credulity if they actually saw what was in the thing, the cocktail they were given. And I think they were actually, poisoned to death.
Yeah.
Is probably really what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's Trump's fault like everything else. So that's fine.
Blame it on COVID. Blame it on Trump. All for the money.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta blame somebody, and I guess it's a good way to kind of wrap this up. Is that it's a pandemic, and I think people have been doing their best, and I think that there's been, as we have outlined extensively, there's been very misdirected advice, there's been wrong advice, there's been shysters, there's been charlatans, there's been all of these things. But this idea that somehow we're going to, in real time, in the middle of a pandemic, be able to figure out exactly what works, pass laws that make a difference, I don't think that's the case. I think if there's anything, that was done legislatively that's going to make a difference and going to get us out of this, it's Operation Warp Speed. It was getting rid of a lot of government bureaucracy and, allowing things to flow through the approval process in a very rapid way, so that we could get what's going to save our ass. What's going to save us is not going to be masks. It's not going to be social distancing. It's not going to be shutting down our economy. It's not going to be destroying people's small businesses or anything like that. It's going to be medical technology, which is what saves us every time. I mean, what got us out of polio, was Jonas Salk. I mean, thank you, Jonas. You saved countless thousands of lives and hundreds or millions of people from permanent disability. It's medical technology. It's the vaccine. It's, emerging therapeutics for people that get this and get very ill. That's what's going to save us. It doesn't mean that we don't try to mitigate it or any of those things. That, those things are still important. I get that. But this idea that somehow we can blame Fauci because he, has had more positions on the coronavirus than the Kama Sutra, or that, we blame, whichever government's in power because one wants to shut everything down and the other one wants us just to deal with it. I mean, I think it gets ridiculous. It gets divisive. It's unhelpful. We need to use common sense. We need to wash our hands. I don't really care if I wear a mask. I'm unclear scientifically how helpful it is. Again, we forgot. Another mask idiocy was skiing.
How could you forget that?
Where I go skiing.
You're saving the best to the last.
I go skiing, okay? So I ski a lot. I've got
story.
I've got 8 days of skiing so far, so it's pretty good. Trying to get 30 days this year, whatever. And so anyways, you go to the mountain, you get into the lineup, in the lift line, you have to have your nose and mouth covered. If you don't have your nose and mouth covered, you're going to get crap. And so you're going to get in trouble because they have to take an extra lift attendant who basically I call the mask stoppo. And the brown shirt comes up to you and it's like, cover your nose. So I found a kid that was really nice. I mean, most of these kids, their blood type is THC. Let's be honest. I was a lifty for a year. I was a good boy.
So you get credo to say that?
I do. I did not do drugs or drink much back then. I'm not saying I do drugs now, but I definitely drink more than I did,
But you were a THC-free lifty.
I was a THC-free.
Say that fast.
I can't do that now. But let suffice to say, when it was illegal, their blood type was still THC. So you have this, this newly minted SS officer, pull it up over your nose, pull it up over your nose. And so finally I found one of these kids and he was really nice, like just very professional, actually. I was very impressed. And I said, so are you monitored? Because we're in the middle of the woods. It's a freaking blizzard. Everyone here is reasonably fit. And we're standing in a longer line because you limit the number of people on the chairlift. And then it's like, I got to wear a useless, super thin balaclava over my nose. Like I said, dude, this isn't science. He said, I'm just doing whatever I need to do to keep the mountain open. I said, I respect that. And I'm happy to play along with whatever it takes to make that happen. That's not tyranny. It's not an unreasonable ask. I said, are you monitored? He goes, oh, yeah. We found health inspectors in the trees with binoculars counting how many people have the mask over their nose and mouth. And if they don't, they're going to shut down this multiple, like, $100, $200, $500 million a year business because, Sally Muckenfutch, who comes here on vacation, won't cover her frickin' nose.
And like they have control of that once you get up the hill and you start skiing down.
No. Once you're on the lift, I've had them give me crap for not having the mask on, even though I only ride the lift with people that I've showed up for.
So they're watching the people in the lines and on the lift, basically.
Right, but once you're on the lift, it's kind of open season.
Right.
I mean, if you're socially distanced on the lift, like you're riding with a stranger, then they kind of want you to have it on, and they'll whatever.
No, I understand that. They're not monitoring people skiing down the hill, though, to see if you've got your
Of course,
mask on.
no, they can't,
Right.
and that doesn't matter.
But they're still spending money. I'm assuming this is government enforced or government employees.
Of course.
Taking their time instead of working on getting the vaccine out to clinics and people in nursing homes. Can you get where I'm going? And are spying on the people outside skiing. Really good use of resources.
Right. Yeah, because the paranoid side of me goes, yeah, how much of that's about keeping people safe and how much of it is just about control?
It's total control.
And that's
I don't see them in Costco seeing how many things people have touched, or pick your favorite big box store. Anyway.
Right. And it's
total BS.
We call BS on that. If it's that dangerous, like honestly, like here's the thing, right? If it's that dangerous that you have to sit 6 feet apart from somebody on a chairlift going 10 miles an hour in the middle of a blizzard when both people have their faces covered, then it's too dangerous to open the mountain.
Exactly.
Like, let's just be honest.
Thinking,
like,
why
I get it.
Want to be up there? I need to have like 20 layers across my mouth and nose.
Right.
One.
Like, I get it. Close the lodges, which they did. Close indoor dining. Like, all of that is common sense. That makes sense. Big gatherings cause big explosions of the virus. But, I mean, you're being fit. It's an outdoor activity.
We see it. We see people outside running on trails by themselves with a mask on. I mean, to protect who? I don't know. The little
right. I mean, it becomes like a really
that's a personal choice.
Well, it becomes a bizarre religious rite, is what it becomes. It's
I don't know. Like you said earlier, where my take on this whole thing is, even though it's fun to laugh and pick out our favorite buffoons and craziness in this whole thing, and we have to, I think, really give grace to both sides. The people that are really frightened and want to try to follow every single rule, to the people that, want their freedom back, and find some common ground, but also just to sit back and laugh a little at all of it, because we've all made silly mistakes and there's humor in this. And sometimes it does feel good to just look at the light side of it, at least, and try not to take it all so seriously and think of the bigger picture.
Well, if there's a theme for 2021, if I was king or, God or Joe Biden, kind of the same thing, really, it's grace.
Right.
I think you nailed it. I think it's grace. I mean, I've had patients who I think are irrationally scared, and I can't, demean that. Right. I mean, it's their world. I had a patient who had COVID who I saw on a telehealth who was very, very, very scared, and he was coughing like crazy, and he was weeping. Like, here's a grown man, like an accomplished professional person, and he's weeping because he doesn't know what's going to happen. I'm like, and I have to talk him off the ledge. I'm like, dude, your risk is exceptionally low. You're far enough into this without a hospitalization that, the odds are overwhelmingly in your favor, and you're not going to kill your family. Yeah. And he's like living in his bedroom with the doors shut.
It's stunningly sad, isn't it? I know. And then there's the other extremes where I'm in situations where, as a medical professional, I know that what the rules are make no sense, that are dictated to me. But honestly, it's like, come on, is it worth it? It's sometimes it's so minute that it's just like follow the rule because it's just a bigger fuss to make a fuss and make a stink. And we can all just show some grace on either side of whatever thing we lean to. And that's just my point.
Do you want to die on every frickin' hill?
No. Because
the party you disagree with told you to do something. No, that makes you a dick. Like, honestly, you're a dick if that's the case. Yeah. Like, you got to pick your battles and pick the hills to die on. And, if we've learned anything in the last, however many years, especially the last year, pick your battles, man. Like, guess what, dude? Masks aren't tyranny. Are they inconvenient? Are they potentially irrational in the situations you're asked to wear them in, like at the mountain? Yeah, but that's not tyranny. Ask someone that's actually lived under tyranny.
Right.
At the same time, some of this government overreach and, potential detention camps and stuff, yeah, that's tyranny. That's bad. That's not America. So,
So, yeah, literally, use your common sense. Please think for yourself. And I don't know. I hope everybody just enjoyed the humorous side of this. And 2021 brings us, I'm sure, some more humorous events, but some relief insight so that we can
be gracious.
So that we can find some other awards to hand out at the end of the year.
Hug someone you disagree with. Well, through a glory hole, but hug someone through a glory hole that you disagree. Like, literally.
Great wrap up. I love that.
Think that way. Like, really, it's grace. And grace, it's easy to extend grace to the people you love and to your family and to your tribe. But that's not real grace. Real grace is extending it to people that, really you would never hang out with, and you might actually kind of hate their ideas. That's what I think the bottom line is. And through all of this and this Covidiocy is really, be gracious. And, people have lived different lives and they have different attitudes and they have different opinions. You know what? So far in America, you're allowed to disagree and not be an asshole about it and just be gracious.
Right. Love it. Perfect. So, hey, I just wanted to finally mention to everybody again that we really appreciate you being here with us as we get rolling on our podcast journey. I hope that you will just do us a solid favor. And if you like this, share it with one friend that you know. Just let them know about us on any podcast platform that they listen to. Let them subscribe and listen. That would mean a world to us. And we can't wait to see you again next week.
See you next Thursday.
It's no secret that medicine is a bit uptight. That's why Tim and I created BS Free MD, to mix things up a little and have fun in the process. Besides, we are having these exact same discussions all the time, so we thought we might as well invite everyone to the party. If you really like us, you can get plenty more and maybe see one of Tim's cool tattoos on our Instagram or Facebook pages at BS Free MD. See you next time.
While we try to keep BS Free MD as raw and real as possible, we can't be held responsible for any medical decisions or discussions had as a result of what you've heard on the show. We know, bummer. But the truth is, we really do care about your questions. So feel free to reach out to us by email at doc@bsfreemd.com.